Hello YouTube and welcome to a mod spotlight on OmegaCraft, the mod, not the mod pack. This is a new mod made by me, Cobbs, and it is the third mod in the sort of TSON group of mods that I've got going on at the moment. Starting with TSON Craft, then LordCraft, and now with OmegaCraft. So, what is OmegaCraft about? Well, OmegaCraft is the sort of tech side of TSON. So it takes what's the tech stage? Seeds come from. So it takes the tech stage of TSON Craft and it tries to expand upon it to create some new systems within there and make it more enjoyable in general. So, without further ado, let us begin. So, world gen, there are same ores as in TSON Craft. So there's copper, tin, lead, silver, aluminium, and magmite. These are mineable, so these two you mine with a stone pickaxe. These three here you mine with an iron one, and the magmite here requires a diamond pickaxe. You can configure all of the settings about where these all spawn, so the maximum heights, minimum heights, and how sort of common they are. And by default, there's a setting that says that if TSON Craft is also installed, don't generate this mod's ores. And the reason why it does that is because, say, if you're in an old world and you want to add a OmegaCraft to it, and you can't be bothered to really fiddle through the config because some people can't. So that's in there to say that if you already had TSON Craft in and you want to add a OmegaCraft, then it won't obviously change the world gen. So you can keep the same world without any chunk errors, which is nice. So these basically are there to just sort of that config's there just so you can keep the same world basically. So these ores are fairly useful in their own right. So obviously for making machine components, and then Magmite is used later on as a fuel source and also some machine components, which I'll talk about when I get to it. So go to those for now, and we will begin with talking about machines. So the first thing you're probably going to want to make is a kind of generator. So we've got a bunch of them here: combustion, catalytic, glow panels, lunar panels, and solar panels, which I'll talk about these. Right, so combustion generators, as you can see, they've got these sort of red squares on them, and that's sort of just my way of saying that it uses, well, that is saying that's a face that accepts power, or, well, in this case, pushes power, and it uses the standard power system handled by OmegaCraft. So the combustion generator is basically, it runs off furnace fuel, and the amount of power produced is relative to the burn time of that fuel. So let's put some coal in, get started. I put that in and you'll see that it gives me a nice little readout telling me how long it's going to be in there for. It starts producing energy. So it produces a fair bit of energy, about 10 times what the burn time value says it's for. Then we have the catalytic generator, which is kind of a more interesting one. So that works on either sugar, gunpowder, glowstone, redstone, in that order. So that's order of effectiveness. So if I put a piece of sugar in, you'll see it derives for a little bit of time and produces a bit of energy, about half that of coal. Put gunpowder in, should produce about the same as coal, I think. Yeah, so gunpowder is about as good as coal using the catalytic generator. Which is not one microphone, whatever. Put redstone in, and redstone produces about twice as much as coal. And then you have glowstone, which is the best one, and that produces about 3 times as much as a piece of coal does. So it's quite a bit better, theoretically. So that's the catalytic generator. So it gives you some extra uses that are a bit unusual, perhaps, for some blocks. So then you have the solar panel, lunar panel, and glow panel. So solar panels, you might expect, just produces energy. It's quite slow. It produces it during the daytime. Lunar panel produces about as quickly as the solar panel, but only at night. And then the glow panel will produce about 4 times slower, but if you place a block of glowstone on top of it, it will run during the day and the night. So that is the purpose of the glow panel. So in a day, the glow panel will produce half as much as one of these because it's on the whole time, producing a quarter of it at any given moment. So that is the glow panel. So those are your sort of options for power gen early game. There is one other option for power generation called Magmite reactor, but I'll get to that later because that's a late game product. So these are crafted in certain ways. A tin, in this case, 2 furnaces, 2 pieces of redstone, and a copper casing for the combustion generator. Copper casing is made using copper plates around a block of stone. And copper plates, find my version, are made using the Omega wrench, which is a container item, so you don't lose it when you craft in this method. And 4 copper ingots as a shapeless recipe. If you take the Omega wrench, it's just that much iron and a piece of redstone. So not too difficult, and you'll want to make one of those, so I'm going to actually take one now, because they're quite useful in future. So then you get the catalytic generator, which is a bit more expensive, requires lead, glowstone, blaze rods, and aluminium casing. The aluminium casing, again, is the same as the copper casing, just with aluminium plates instead. Solar panels, they're quite similar to the TSON Craft ones, actually. Use silver plates, lapis lazuli, and a machine I/O controller. The lunar ones are the same, but use blocks of quartz, and the glow ones the same, but use glowstone. And a machine I/O controller is 4 blocks of stone, 4 blocks of any kind of glass, and an iron casing, which is the same as a copper casing, but using iron plates, as you might expect. So with all these machines in place, well, not machines, power generation, we probably want to get it to our machines. So there's a few ways of doing that are currently available. The energy conduits, which are 3 different kinds in preceding thing. So this is the lowest tier energy conduits. You get the standard one and then the advanced one, and basically they just send different amounts of power tick. And if say you didn't want 2 lines of energy conduit connecting to each other, you can just right click across to block them, and right click again to unblock them. So quite useful for that kind of situation. And then there is also, for those who remember in the sort of older days of TSON Craft, there was also energy pylons and energy distributors. And these have 2 tiers, standard and basic. The standard, again, is just sends a bit more power per tick, which is always useful. So as with TSON Craft, the energy pylons can't connect to, energy pylons can connect to machines, where the distributors can't. However, the pylon can only be linked to one distributor or pylon wirelessly, where the distributor can connect to as many as you want. So, for example, if I do this, I'll quickly set up the system to get power over here. So I'll down one of these. Yeah, some coal units. Find some. There we are. Alright, if I grab myself a electric furnace, grab myself this electric furnace, put down a couple of those, I can transfer power from here to here. So energy will now flow from the pylon into the distributor. The distributor can then be linked to these 2 places there and there. Obviously, energy has been transferred, not split evenly, because obviously it didn't connect at the same time, but it has split them between the 2. And a pylon can't connect to 2 places. It will just override its previous connection. And if I want to break out all the connections, I can just hold my shift key and right click on the pylon, and it will clear the pylon information on all of these if I need. So that is a thing. So that's those. And then another kind of power transfer that exists is in the form of these long-range energy conduits. So these long-range ones are actually cheaper than regular ones. Well, they're kind of they're a bit different. But you get 32 instead of the 8 you get with a regular conduit. So yes, they are kind of cheaper. But you also need a flux wave transformer in order to transfer from these regular energy into the long range ones. Because if I try and do this, they don't connect with each other. And In fact, these long-range ones don't even connect to generators or machines. So you actually need two of these flux wave transformers. And that's going to require gold plates, bronze casing, lapis iron, and a block of redstone. So the way these work is if I just sort of down here, pop down my flux wave transformer. If you can't rotate, by the way, it has to be in that configuration. See on the bottom here is the red face, which again is likening to this, and on the top's got the blue face, which is, of course, referencing the fact that these are blue. And you can connect your big line of long-range conduits however far you want, really. The idea of these is they transfer power much faster than these other ones here. So if you're going over a long distance, you're going to want to use these. And actually, the way that these work, you're going to want to use a basic energy storage device at both ends as well. Or any kind of energy storage device, I suppose. And the reason why you want to use that is because these outputs, I think it's 128 energy, or it might be 1600, I don't know. It's one of those numbers. Whereas these transfer like something like 6,400, 640,000, I think. So this energy storage device can output as much as it can hold at any given time. So the idea being that you would then feed in a bunch of energy like this through multiple sides, and that could be used to transfer energy into these conduits in such a way that they can actually handle it, or make use of the fact that they transfer energy that much faster. So then at this end, pop down another flux wave transformer. I'm going to connect an energy storage device like so. So energy should enter into here once I get it going. Let's pop down another combustion generator. There's also coal. Put it in there. So we'll see it transfers through this energy storage device, through to here, and into here. But it hasn't come through to the other end yet. And the reason why is because this flux wave transformer is set up to take from the short range ones into the long range, as you can see here. So the idea is that the blue side is lit up, which means that energy is being transferred into the blue type of energy. So to change that, you simply right-click on the block, and you see that the red is now the lit up side, and if I look in here, you'll see energy is flowing in fairly rapidly, actually, because this thing is pretty much empty. And this guy, well, basically, energy is being transferred pretty much instantly from here to here. Now, an interesting thing to note about the energy conduits is that they have a tendency to hold on to a little bit of power, and it's usually about 1 energy per conduit. And the reason why they do that, to be honest, I'm not sure, but the idea being that they use their energy, so they hold on to a bit of energy in order to transfer the rest of it. So theoretically, you're only losing 1 energy per block, and that only happens the one time. So as soon as it's used that energy and lost it the first time, it doesn't happen again. So it's not a huge loss. It's not any loss, really, but it's a small price that you pay for getting cables that do not lose power over distance and have quite a large amount of throughput. But yeah, just thought I'd make you guys aware of the fact that these do actually hold on to 1 unit of energy per block that they transfer through. So now that there's energy on this side, I can pretty much do whatever I want with it. I can put it back into this line, such. Now, something else that might be quite useful to know is that, so if I grab something from Ender.io, a RF mod, or a mod that uses RF, which I believe they actually use Forge Energy now. So if I take a basic capacitor bank from it, Ender.io, so this is sort of energy storage method, I can't actually connect it to my energy conduits long or short range. So you might be thinking, well, I kind of want to be able to transfer my power between RF and OmegaCraft energy. And luckily you can, using a thing called a flux inverter. So this thing is quite similar to the flux wave transformer, except that it transfers between RF and OmegaCraft energy. So there we are, that works. You'll need to set this side to input, otherwise it will try and send power back into this thing. Nothing I can do about that. But something you can do now, so just like the flux wave transformer, the flux inverter can actually transfer energy back into OmegaCraft energy. So if I connect this here, connect that there, put this down here, you'll see that this should, in theory, flip that around, should now be transferring energy straight through back into OmegaCraft energy from the Ender RF. So you can transfer back and forth between RF energy or Forge energy, I believe. I'm not entirely certain whether it supports Tesla. It depends whether Tesla supports Forge energy or not, but I know Ender does, so it works for Ender, and that's the one that I use outside of this mod. So for me, it works. I'll look into doing Tesla support, but I'm not sure how easy that will be. But again, I haven't actually tested it with Tesla, so it might actually work as it is. Anyway, so that is the energy transfer system. As you can see, this is still filling up quite nicely. So now I've talked about that, I think it's time to move on to the machines. So there are a few types of machines. I should get my furnace back, seeing as I binned it. So we've got the same machines as you had in TSON Craft. So I'll quickly connect this line up here, and we'll just pop down the machines like so. And, filling up with energy a little bit, varying amounts depending on where they were. Quite slowly, I'll add. These are the machines. So you've got the furnace, and you've got the crusher, the plate former, the compactor, the alloy furnace, and the hydrator. So these work fairly similarly to their TSON Craft counterparts. They have some advantages over them, mainly to do with this button here, the config button. So if anyone remembers, why do I even have to talk about remembering stuff? I've actually got the mod installed right now, so I can show you exactly what I mean. If I grab myself, got a furnace, if I grab myself an electric furnace from TSON Craft, and I right-click on it, you'll see these buttons along the side here. And the way these work, obviously, is you can do up for now. So you can configure the sides of TSON Craft blocks to accept into the particular slots in this machine. And this is okay for up and down, obviously, because they don't change. But for the north, south, west, and east directions, you're going to find you have to use F3 quite a bit in order to figure out which way relates to where it is. So the advantage here is when you press the config button, it pops up this display, and these buttons here change the mode. And that mode is relative to where the block is in the world. Oops. So rather than it being west or east or south or whatever, it is relative to which way the block's facing. So if I edit here and I edit the left face, it edits the left face. Right face does the right face. Left face here, face there. So the way you can control these is you left mouse to sort of go through them that way, and you can right mouse to go backwards. So they've got a few modes. So the furnace, because it's only got 3 slots in it, has primary input, redstone input, primary output, and all output. I'll talk about all output later. That's more relative to the ones that have multiple outputs. This one has that as well, because it just means that it's just felt like if you can have a bunch of machines, it might be nicer to have all of them have this sort of pink color as opposed to some of them having a variety of colors on them in order to achieve the same result. So that is the furnace, and I can actually, a nice thing about these blocks, similarly to their counterparts from TSON Craft, you can actually put redstone in the bottom to give them some power. It's not as much you get out of a catalytic generator, but it's still quite a bit of power. So it's kind of worth doing early game if you really don't want to make a generator. So the furnace, it's alright, it's not too quick, but it'll do. Produce stone for me there, which is quite nice. So the crusher. So the crusher, I'll put some stone in, and hopefully it will do it for me. But The recipe for stone being crushed gives me cobblestone, and it also gives me a chance to get something else. Didn't give me that, so we're not going to bother. I'm just going to look it up in here. Crusher. So if I look up JEI thing for the crusher, and I'll have to find stone, but here we go. Stone produces cobblestone and has a 25% chance of producing gravel. So OmegaCraft machines have chances of producing secondary outputs. That's just some integration I've got going on as well. Integrates with some mods that I've got in this mod pack. Yeah, but a few things give extra chance. So gold ore produces silver dust and chance. Iron ore might produce some tin dust. Silver might produce some lead. Quite likely to produce lead, I will add. And as you can see, they work on ore dictionary support. Something I actually changed in my latest version 1.02 was that rather than each ore dictionary item having its own separate recipe, they now actually accept different ore dictionary items. So the machines now support the ore dictionary properly, rather than the sort of sneaky way I did it before, which didn't really do things properly. They work fine now, which is nice. So yeah, you get a chance for secondary outputs, which is really nice. Sort of harking back to thermal expansion, which I know is on its way to reaching 1.10 fairly soon, which is nice, of course. Now, I don't know why the energy has to sit behind items, but that is how it is, unfortunately. And it will continue to run while I'm in the config mode. It's literally just visually doesn't appear to be there, but it does still work. So yeah, but the whole thermal expansion secondary output thing, it's kind of similar to that, if not pretty much the same, I would say. You get different things though as a result of it. It's a similar feature. So then we have the plate former, one that doesn't have a secondary output. This will just turn things into plates, so put some copper in. Well, why don't we just grab the TSON Craft copper, just to show you, or even like Railcraft, sure. Just, random mods I've got installed. And it works. Mechanism copper works too. Yeah. Showing that the ore dictionary support does in fact work. So that is a thing, and of course side config still exists here. Now actually for the crusher you can see that if I right click a few times you have a side config for secondary output as well. So you can be more specific if you want to, or you can go all output just to get that going. Then you've got the compactor, again, does not have a secondary output. Compactor's got a lot of weird recipes in it, but they're fairly useful. Such as turning planks back into logs and sticks into planks. So it can be useful. And then you've got the alloy furnace. This is one of the more sort of complex machines that you have to deal with. For some reason in there just get started. Because you've got two inputs and two outputs. So if I take some copper and some tin, I'm going to make some bronze in here. Put those in together, and we should get ourselves a couple of 4 bronze ingots. Yeah, 4. And it does it like this. It puts 2 in each slot. Because I felt that was a fun way of doing it, I suppose. So actually, you can make a few things in the alloy furnace. You can make yourselves. I need to change that. It's a bug. There is actually 3 copper ingots required for that, not 1. I'll change that when I get around to it. So apparently it doesn't show the correct values. I'll fix that in 1.03. Anyway, so it does that for something, so you can make Magmite ingots by putting steel with Magmite dust. You have a chance of getting cave Magmite dust, which is very useful because you need to mix that with steel to get cave Magmite ingots, which I'll talk about the purposes for these two later, because their uses are not that obvious, per se, as it were. And then we have the hydrator, which is same as it has always been. You add water in here, either by bucket or use some sort of water source to get water in. Some pipes will do from another mod like Ender.io. There's currently a bug where it doesn't update correctly. Again, that'll be fixed in 1.03 when I get around to actually testing out properly. But this does work, and it will use water up. Uses a bucket of water each time. It's used for sort of cleaning things, so it turns poisonous potatoes into regular potatoes. It'll make cobblestone mossy, make bricks mossy. It will turn sand into clay, which is quite useful. It does a bunch of like weird things like that. So it's quite an interesting one. Daytime again. Yeah. So the hydrator is one of the more interesting machines as well. So then there are also the advanced tiers of machines. So there's the advanced and the ultimate machines. So these, well, I'll just grab the furnaces for now, but I'll put these down here, some redstone in them. You'll see straight away they store more energy than the regular one. So that one stores about twice as much as the regular furnace did. And then this one stores 3 times as much in the ultimate one. So you might be asking, what are the advantages of these? Well, first of all, the advanced one and the ultimate one, they run at the same speed as each other. So I've put some copper in here. You'll see it's quite a bit faster than a regular furnace. And if I put it in here, same speed as that one. So you might be thinking, why do I want to go for the ultimate one in the end? Well, the reason is because the ultimate one has access to speed upgrades and energy upgrades. Both of them stack up to 30. I will say that energy upgrades are a lot more expensive than speed upgrades. They require cave magma plates and Magmite casing. A cave magma plate requires a plate former, 4 cave magma ingots, and Magmite plate requires 1 to 1 conversion there. So quite a bit easier than the cave magma one, which does not work so nicely. So if I put these in here, I'll take the speed up energy upgrades out to start off with, just to show you how much energy this uses. So it goes extremely quickly, but it's using a ridiculous amount of energy. Like, that is a huge amount of energy that's being used. If I put energy upgrades in there, and then I put this in, you'll see that it's not using very much energy at all. And that gives you an idea as to why the energy upgrades are so much more expensive than the speed upgrades. So yeah, that is the ultimate machines, and all the ultimate machines work the same way. They have access to these slots here, as well as all the config that you had before, where the advanced one is simply just a little bit faster than the regular. And you need to make the advanced one to make the ultimate one. So the ultimate crusher requires an advanced crusher, K magma plates, and an ultimate machine IO. Using advanced machine IO, etc. So yeah, that's one of those things. What else is that? Yes, there is also the cave guide, the Omega guide, as it's called in this one, not the cave guide. I'm getting very confused between my 2 mods now. They have this item, or 3, I suppose, have the item. But this one's a little bit different in the sense that it's called something else, and its GUI looks a bit different to the TSON Craft one. So you can click on these sections, as in TSON Craft, and it tells you stuff about them. They've been modified since their previous one, so they're a bit different. The catalytic gen tells you what sort of things can be put in there, what are 4 things that can be put in there. And combustion gen tells you what it does. So the one we're most interested in is the Magmite reactor at the moment. That is the most important item that we want to make. So the Magmite reactor is the sort of latest game energy generating device that you can make, and it is extremely powerful. So I'll put down an ultimate energy storage device, which stores a ridiculous amount of power, just saying, just to get us started. I'm actually going to take all this stuff off my hopper. So the Magmite reactor has a slot in it for ice, which is quite useful, and it has 8 slots for fuel rods, which you can make not too expensively, putting an ingot with that stuff. And the reason why I say it's not too expensive is because of the fact that you get the fuel rods back. So you take 8. I'm just going to go for 8 at the moment. I'm actually going to take the ice out for now, just to show you. So if I you can put up to 4 Magmite ingots in one rod without needing for it to cool down, and that will start producing energy. So it produces heat, and when they're placed in, they instantly fill up the tank for reserve fuel, and you can take the fuel rods out like that. So let's see how much energy 4 fuel rods produced like that. Yeah, it's quite a bit of energy. So the way that this works is that the fuel rods will produce more energy the hotter that the machine is. So it will cool down over time, and you can speed it up by putting ice in. It will consume the ice and take away 1,000 heat. which is quite useful. And, well, just basically that this thing will produce energy relative to how hot it is, and these will overheat it in one cycle without cooling down if you put 5 in. But of course, now I'm going to show you the one downside of this thing. So other than the fact it's quite expensive, steel, gold, silver, and magmite ingots, if I just do this, so just fill it to pretty much capacity, and I just sort of retreat a bit. This will produce a ridiculous amount of power, but it will also explode everything. Now this obviously won't blow up, which is okay, but you did waste a lot of fuel because you lost the whole thing. Your frauds might survive. They don't always, but they can do. But more importantly, you probably lost a large chunk of your base as a result of this being happening, and the devastation does spread a little bit outside of the blast, sort of central blast radius. A little bit there. So there's the ultimate energy storage device in full use with the Magmite reactor, the best power generation in the mod. So now to talk about the main sort of way you want to handle your Magmite reactor. That is using cave Magmites, which is the purple stuff. This stuff is quite a bit better than regular Magmites, and for 2 reasons. So if you remember, we produced about 922,000 energy, I think it was, something like that, with the regular Magmites. So if I pop in cave Magmite, I'm going to pop in quite a bit more than I did of that. If I pop this in, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll just pop a 8 in to show you, because cave Magmite doesn't produce as much heat as regular Magmite does, but it produces more energy. So there isn't really any theoretical side to that, because you would think that actually the one that produces more heat would produce more energy, but actually the cave Magmite one does, because of just balance reasons. This stuff is ridiculously more expensive than regular Magmite. So if I check the energy now, you'll see it's produced a lot more energy than the regular Magmite did. This is just a ridiculous amount of energy. This has already produced nearly 4 million energy with just 8 fuel rods. To be fair, is 8 ingots of cave Magmite, but still, that's one cycle of the reactor, and you can obviously cool that down with ice and start again, which I'm going to. In fact, no, I'm going to break it because lazy. Can't be bothered to wait for it anymore. So that is kind of a way you can sneak around the whole needing to cool it down with ice thing, is if you break it and place it back down, you will actually get rid of the heat that isn't retained. I can't really stop you guys from doing that, so I probably could if I tried hard enough, but I can't be bothered doing that because that's going to require so many checks. So I can load this up with cave Magmite just to show you the blast radius here. It's not quite as bad as regular Magmite, if I remember correctly. I can't actually remember though whether I made it bigger or not. I don't think I did. So you can see it takes a lot longer to blow up as well, which is another thing. I'll let that off. It's about the same actually. Maybe it's a little bit bigger, just sort of surface damage there. Yeah, it's about the same actually. But yeah, it produces a lot of power, and you got to keep that. A thing to note with that is that actually when you put fuel into the machine, if it's already full, it will continue to accept fuel and it will void the fuel that's in the rods. So be aware of that. That is a thing that happens. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of power generation and uses for power. So now it's on to uses for Magmites. So if I show you these things, grab 4 of them in order, I guess. Because why not? I don't know why this game does this to me sometimes. Right, so there's 9 energy swords in the game. Only 1 is craftable, the red one. Crafted using Magmite plates, steel plates, and a block of iron. So the way these work, well, they're just sort of quite powerful swords, and they come in all these different colors, pretty much. There's not a lot of theory in game as to why they work, and eventually you'll be able to craft the different colors of these, but at the moment you can only craft the red one. Yeah, so you get a variety of colors, and there will be versions of these that use energy and be more powerful. So these are the sort of basic ones as they were. So those are the energy swords. And I believe that actually concludes this sort of first look at OmegaCraft by me. As far as I can think, there's not much else to talk about, if anything. Oh yeah, these metal blocks, you can use them for beacons. So you can create a beacon replacing the iron, gold, or whatever you would normally use with these ones here. Not the casings, but with the blocks of metal, which is quite nice. Just a sort of little feature that I added one day because I was bored, and I thought, you know what, I feel like I should be able to make beacons with these. So yeah, that you can do that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and are considering checking out the mod. I put quite a bit of time into it, I suppose, maybe more than I would put into other things. But that was mostly because I was testing a bunch of stuff. So that will include some of the future additions to the mod. So I intend to add item pipes, which I haven't done before. Never done item pipes before. So I have been testing them quite extensively to some degree, and I'm pretty sure I've got the pathing done, so items can happily find their way through pipes. It's just a matter of getting them to render in the pipe, which is a bit of a pain for me, because whenever I do it, it never actually seems to be the right size, or it just sort of isn't anywhere near where the pipe is, which is always an issue, and I'm not sure why it happens half the time, because as far as I can tell, the code seems to be alright. So yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get item pipes added, but I would say the progress on them is quite good so far. And then once I've got those done, I may move on to fluid pipes. I'll have to think about it, because currently the only need for fluid in the mod is the hydrator. But again, that may change depending on whether I can make fluid pipes that I'm happy with. So, and then adding on to future plans, maybe some armor of some description. So I know I added the ESAs into OmegaCraft, into TSON Craft a little while ago, and I sort of said I would expand on them, and I never got around to doing it. So this will be my opportunity to do that. It will give me the chance to add ESAs that will require power and will actually be functional and not ridiculously overpowered like the current ones are, because they do have a slight problem with them. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you've made one, you probably already know, but if you haven't, then so be it. Yeah, so I'm going to add my own versions of them in here as well, which will probably be actually modular to some degree more than the other ones were, and will probably run on power, because those ones didn't. And the other thing is that obviously we're going to have the higher tier energy swords that will run on power as well, and those should be pretty fun. And I may add some more machines in the future. I have to think about it, because at the moment I'm happy with how they are, but I'm sure there is more work that can be done to improve them. And I've got to fix a couple of things that I discovered either earlier today or in this video about the auto dictionary support that I added this morning not actually displaying correctly in JI, but it does work properly regardless, just to show the correct recipe in JI. So there we are, I guess. That is the first look at OmegaCraft from me. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at it, and hopefully it's given you some idea of how some of the blocks work that maybe you're unsure about, or may get you to have a look at the mod and see how it plays with your other things that you've got going on in your mod packs or whatever. I know I'll be adding this to my mod pack, which, although it's also called OmegaCraft, I mean, I suppose it is for the same reason, but on the other hand, it's not the fact that it's the same name, it's the fact that it's referring to the same thing within the universe. TSON. So that's a thing that's happening. So this will probably be added to that one pack, probably in some episodes when I actually get around to re-uploading those, because I've still got quite a big backlog and I haven't uploaded one for quite a long time. I was actually thinking of recording some later today, so I'll see how that goes. But at the moment, I'm having to make a big decision as to whether I change the world over, but copy and paste like the fortress, because a lot of things have changed mod pack wise since before, and I'm starting to notice the fact that I'm not having access to a lot of things I probably should have access to, because of the current way I've got the world generating. And I don't really want to go through the whole process of going through on sort of export chunks. I'm sure I've already got loads of those going on during errors, because I'm not actually sure where they'll be and how many there will be on top of that. Anyway, so yeah, back onto this topic, because that's not really relevant. So yeah, so the mod's been out for, I don't know, let me just check. I would say like a couple of days now. Yeah, 3 days approximately. So yeah, I've got a couple of changes to make before my next version, which I'll hopefully get out today as well. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.